Hello and welcome back to the Sports Report with me, Marco Hernandez. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here. It is time. We are back to the NFL season. The Chicago Bears play a football game as I'm recording this Thursday, the Hall of Fame game. Yes, it is only the Hall of Fame game. And yes, it has just recently been reported that none of the starters are playing. No Caleb Williams, no Rome Odunze, no Keenan Allen. None of the stars are playing. But regardless of the fact, I don't care. I'm just ready to watch football. And I am ready. I am hyped. I don't know if you're hyped. I don't really care if you're not hyped because I'm hyped. It's the Bears. It's football season, and this episode is going to be a very special episode because it's going to be a complete breakdown of the Chicago Bears, my analysis of the Chicago Bears, my predictions, my expectations for this upcoming season, and we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna have fun this episode. We're gonna talk very I'm going to be very hard on my team. I'm going to be very optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also going to talk about the problems and the concerns of that I have with this team, and we're going to get to a lot of that. So, without further ado, and let's not waste any more time, let's get right into this episode. Where else to start other than the number one overall pick in the NFL draft, Caleb Williams? We have exhausted this topic. I have exhausted this topic. I have heard this topic so much throughout the whole year, throughout the whole offseason. Caleb Williams, number one overall pick, Chicago Bears. This is the opportunity for the Bears to potentially have a quarterback for the first time in their history, an actual proper quarterback. Now, again, like I said, I want to talk everything Bears related in like everything, the whole roster in this episode. But it's hard to not talk about, and you can't deny that Caleb Williams is going to be the key factor in how we see the season, whether or not we perform well, or like everything else is going to be important, but it's going to come down to Caleb Williams' success and his development this season. And can we finally say at the end of the season that we have a franchise quarterback and someone to build on for the next 10 years, hopefully 10 years? And so far, right now, currently is going on training camp. A lot of the reports coming out of training camp have been positive, have been the offense is clicking. Caleb Williams is progressing through his development. He's exactly where he's supposed to be at this point of his development. And I think that's important. I think that's very it's good to hear that he is progressing and good to see. But at the end of the day, it's training camp. We can't know for sure until we see him in game action, and we probably won't be able to see him. We'll see him a little bit in the preseason. And Matt Eberflus has talked about a plan that he has and the rest of the coaching staff have for Caleb Williams, and that is to play him roughly 35 to 45 snaps in the preseason, which is what CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and other rookie quarterbacks have had usually in the past. And I think that's fair because Caleb Williams needs to have this opportunity this preseason, which is part of the reason why I'm slightly upset why he isn't playing in the Hall of Fame game. I'm not necessarily. I understand why you don't play in the Hall of Fame game. You don't want to risk injury. You don't want to risk any kind of chance of him being hurt, especially in the first preseason game, a game that literally does not matter whatsoever. But my thing with it, right, is that you want Caleb Williams to go out there, experience going out, experience coming out of the tunnel, experience going into the huddle with your offensive line, with the team, experience the getting a play call in the ear, experience calling the play and relaying it to your team. Because in college, Caleb Williams did not do a lot of huddle. It was a lot of plays were predetermined, plays were calling off from the sideline, not from the ear. You didn't have to relay it to everybody else. Everybody else knew the play, and it wasn't much huddle. There wasn't a proper cadence that he had to learn. You want him to come inside the huddle, call it out, and just get a feeling for what an NFL offense, what an NFL atmosphere truly is. And now you're not going to get that exactly in the Hall of Fame game. You're not coming up against a true NFL defense. They're not going to show you exactly what they're going to play in the season because teams and coaches don't want to give up anything in the preseason and give up any kind of advantage or give away any kind of schemes or anything like that, which is completely fair. But it would be nice to see him he doesn't even have to throw the ball. Like you can just hand the ball off, maybe throw a screen. Like 4 or 5 plays is it that really all I'm asking for. And again, I'm not too concerned about that. I think he has other opportunities. There's three other preseason games that he can go out and have those 35 to 45 snaps. But I think it is important for him to learn the snap count, get a cadence, get a feel for calling plays, being under center, and taking the ball from the center in an NFL style offense. I think that's important, and I hope to see him a lot more in the preseason, and I hope Matt Eberflus can give him the opportunity to grow, because it is going to be a very, very it's going to be a learning curve. And I think regardless of the fact of how talented he is and how good he is adapting, or how well he can adapt, I think there's going to be a learning curve regardless. He's going to be a rookie coming into the NFL in the hardest position in football to play. I fully expect there to be ups and downs. However, he is coming in again. I have talked about this extensively. You're coming into a situation, Caleb Williams is, that not many rookie quarterbacks come into, especially not number one overall picks. You come into a situation where you have a skill group of Ryan Poles bringing in Keenan Allen, bringing in drafting Rome Odunze, bringing in Gerald Everett, DeAndre Swift, already to a very good running back group alongside Keenan Allen, alongside Cole Kmet. You have a very elite and experienced alongside some young, talented skill group players that not many quarterbacks even in the league right now have had. So I think expectations wise for Caleb Williams, we want to see growth. We want to see better quarterback play than we have seen the last 3 years here in Chicago. He doesn't have to be CJ Stroud. I don't expect him to have a CJ Stroud-like season. I don't expect him to go out and have a 4,000-yard season like many people are wanting, or even like a 30-touchdown season, because only one rookie quarterback has ever had a 30-plus touchdown season in their first year, and I think that was Justin Herbert. And there's not many quarterbacks, and the expectations, again, I'm not necessarily looking at numbers. It's a lot of the eye test. Is he doing the things that we want to see from a quarterback? Moving in the pocket, avoiding avoidable sacks, and calling out pressures and helping the offensive line and getting the ball out quickly, something that we didn't see Justin Fields do very often in his 3-year tenure here. So we honestly, just from Caleb Williams, just go out and ball. Be who you are. Be the reason why the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles drafted you. And I have no concerns with how he will adapt to the game mentally. I think he is fully prepared mentally. He's prepared for this moment his entire life. So I don't have an issue, or I don't expect there to be an issue with him mentally. I think the issue may come from him not having the experience like a CJ Stroud had in a NFL-style offense. CJ Stroud had that with Ohio State with Ryan Day. Caleb Williams is coming from a more air raid, not necessarily a ton of structure from USC. And it's going to be his first year. There's going to be ups and downs, and I'm not necessarily that concerned about his first couple games, but by the end of the season, I hope and expect to say we have a quarterback for the future. And if not, then I think there's serious question marks. And I think a lot of people have talked about the skill group, about there's not enough balls to go around. There's only one football. Is Keenan Allen going to be disgruntled because it is going to be his contract year? Is he going to want to be more involved in the offense? Is DJ Moore going to be okay with having someone else that could be number one other than him? How is Rome Odunze going to fit into a wide receiver group that has a Hall of Famer and a solidified wide receiver one in DJ Moore? I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I think that Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are both professionals, and they've shown that throughout their career, and I think they're going to nurture and teach Rome Odunze everything that they need, everything they know, and everything that he may need to improve. And I think Rome Odunze has shown, just from watching his interviews, man, like watching him, he is so mature beyond his years. He is so talented, and I genuinely think behind Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he was the second best wide receiver in this past draft. And when we talk about it, like this is This is literally the best skill position group that I have ever seen with the Chicago Bears in my lifetime. Now, it's not a long lifetime. I'm 23 years old. Yes, I know I look young. I'm handsome and shit, but whatever. This is the best skill position group. It's better than Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey and Matt Forte, what we had early in the 2010s. It's better than that. And for me, it's going to be important to see how Shane Waldron utilizes this wide receiver group. And this, frankly, Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson. You can go and on about all the players that he has at his disposal. I expect a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. He played a lot of that in Seattle when he had DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So he has experience with having 3 wide receiver, a team with 3 talented wide receivers, and has experience with 2 tight end sets. So you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel with Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. Expect a lot of play action, which I think was one thing that Caleb Williams needs to work on a lot, is play action. He didn't do a lot of that in college, and taking it from under center. He played a lot in the shotgun. You're not going to do that a lot in the NFL. You're not going to play a ton of out of the shotgun. You're going to play under center, and you're going to have to do a lot of play action. You're going to learn to roll. You're going to learn to move around the pocket, and I think he does that very well, Caleb Williams. But as far as the running backs are concerned, I think DeAndre Swift is going to be the clear number 1. They paid him all that money for a reason. They're going to utilize him out of the backfield, hopefully, in the passing game, and he's going to be most likely he's going to be the first and second down back. The third down back, I think, is going to be interesting to see, because I think DeAndre Swift can be a 3-down back easily. But I think Roschon Johnson is going to be the number 2 behind DeAndre Swift because of his ability in the pass protection. He's much better than Khalil Herbert in that aspect, and I think he's also probably a better pass catcher than Khalil Herbert. I don't know how Khalil Herbert fits into this running back group anymore. There's talks about maybe him not even making the team, maybe getting cut, a cap casualty, especially when it's a contract year for him as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think he has a spot on the team. I think he's a nice change of pace type running back. He is very explosive. I think Khalil Herbert is definitely still in the play. I don't expect him to be cut or released. However, would I be surprised if that happened? No, because it's going to be very difficult to make this 53-man roster. There's positions that are locked in, and there's not many positions where you're like, there's a battle there, it's going to be very difficult. Ryan Poles said it himself. It's going to be difficult to make this 53-man roster. There's going to be some cuts that we're not going to expect. Now, everything is not all peaches and roses in Chicago Bears land. Let me tell you this. This is where I'm going to get a little negative. I'm going to be a little skeptical with this team. My concerns on the offensive side of the football is not just like having a rookie quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, it's the offensive line, man. It's the offensive line. Like, when you talk about building a roster and building an NFL team, you want to start in the trenches. And we're going to talk about this, where the main concerns for the Chicago Bears team, it's in the trenches on both sides of the line. And I'm going to start off talking with the offensive line here, because we don't know who's going to be center. That is not what you want in a position. I talked about the position of Caleb Williams being as a rookie quarterback, this great position where you have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, all these weapons to throw, but you don't have the center solidified. You don't have that position, the one that's going to be handing the ball off to your quarterback. That center quarterback exchange is so important, and it's so underrated. It is so important and so imperative to have a center. He is the rock of your offensive line, and we don't have that at the moment. We don't even know if it's going to be Coleman Shelton. We don't know if it's going to be Ryan Bates. And now with the recent news of Nate Davis missing some time in training camp, who he missed time last year in training camp and was hurt. Now you're in the position where now Ryan Bates would have to be your right guard, because the plan was, I am assuming, was that Ryan Bates would be the starting center, because you traded away a 5th round pick for him. He's going to be your starting center, but now it turns out that your starting center, or your best center, is also your swing guard. So now you have to play Coleman Shelton at center. Coleman Shelton, who came over from the Los Angeles Rams in free agency. You sign Coleman Shelton. Now you have you have to make a decision here. Like we can't keep doing this because the offensive line needs to be gelled, but all five need to have a relationship and an ability to be cohesive. And from reports right now coming out of training camp, it doesn't sound good. We need to really talk about this Nate Davis situation, who has gotten a lot of money. He got a lot of guaranteed money last year from signing in free agency, and he missed a lot of time last season. And when he did play, he looked all right. But the problem is that you need to play a lot of time. You have to have a lot of time together as a starting five to gel and to get that cohesiveness. And at the moment, it just doesn't look like they have that. It doesn't sound like they have that right now. And you talk about Tevin Jenkins, who also has a lot of injury concerns, who has had an injury history. Braxton Jones, who missed some time last year. You still don't know necessarily if he's going to be your starting left tackle for the future. You know, I have no concerns over Darnell Wright. I think Darnell Wright is going to be a stud, and I think Darnell Wright is going to be the anchor or the best lineman on this roster. But here's your right tackle. You talk about the most important positions, the interior of that offensive line, outside of Tevin Jenkins, who is very good, who has injury concerns. You still have question marks about your right guard. You have a massive question mark at center, and you still have a left tackle in Braxton Jones, who is very, very good. I think he's very capable of being your left tackle, but he has a lot of strides to still go up. You know, he still has a lot to improve on. When we talk about the other side of the offense, the other side of the line, as we switch over to the defensive side of the football, it honestly isn't a good sign. Like, we talk about all this, we have all these expectations because of Caleb Williams and how good the offensive line is and how well the defense played towards the end of this last season, which we'll talk about a little bit more here. When you build a roster, when you hop on Madden, if I hop on Madden right now, I could hop on Madden right now. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure my offensive line and defensive line are elite, because that is what is the base of your roster. And Ryan Poles has kind of gone about building this roster a little backwards. He started off drafting Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. He drafted Tyreek Stevenson last year. He's made some picks on the defensive line. You know, he drafted Zach Pickens, drafted Gervon Dexter. And the hope is for Gervon Dexter to take a step forward and become that three technique for Matt Eberflus, which is so important in the 4-3 defense. In Matt Eberflus's defense, you need a three technique. You need someone in that defensive tackle position to be a game wrecker. What he had in Indianapolis, you had someone like DeForest Buckner to just stuff the run and get pressure from the interior of the offensive line, because that affects the quarterback way more than quarterback or pressure from the edges. Despite the addition of Montez Sweat, I think Montez Sweat is elite, and I think he's going to only get better. And reports from training camp is that he is going to have a breakout season, even better than last year. He's a game wrecker. There's nobody on the other side of that team, or on the other side of Montez Sweat. You're looking for one of DeMarcus Walker, Dominique Robinson, or the 5th round draft choice, Devin Booker, Austin Booker. You're looking for one of those three to really improve on the other side of Montez Sweat and generate pressure, because, again, another problem with this team, it's not all roses and peaches and roses. In Chicago right now, we have a legitimate issue with getting to the quarterback, rushing the quarterback. They ranked very poorly in third down defense. I have the numbers here. They were 29th, and I hammered this so much last season and the year before, that they were the worst, one of the worst third down defenses I have ever seen in my life. And that is partly because they can't generate any kind of pressure at the quarterback. They don't have any elite pass rushers up until Montez Sweat got there, but now offenses are going to zero in on Montez Sweat. So we need someone else, even Gervon Dexter, again, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, somebody to generate pressure from the other side or from the interior, and that is how you can fix the third down defense. They were 29th in third down defense, 31st in the red zone. They were 31st in sacks and 20th in quarterback hits. So despite Montez Sweat coming in and the defense looking much better towards the end of last season, there's still a massive issue with generating pressure and getting to the quarterback and getting QB hits. Let's stop being negative for a second and let's go over to the positive sides with this defense. Like I said, they did play better after the trade for Montez Sweat. They played much better towards the end of the season. You know, they were one of the better rush defenses in the entire league. They were first in yards per game. They were fifth in yards per carry, with only allowing 3.8 yards per game or per carry. That is elite stuff, and that is due to the effectiveness of Gervon Dexter. Montez Sweat is a run stuffer. He's not just only an elite edge rusher. He's also very good against the run. DeMarcus Walker is very good against the run. You had Andrew Billings, who's still on the roster, who's going to be just a massive body in the middle of that defensive line that's going to take up a lot of blocks, and he's very effective against the run. So I don't think the rush defense is not the issue. And honestly, the secondary is not an issue either, because that is probably the strength of your defense. It is your secondary. You have Jaquan Brisker. You have Jalen Johnson, who just got his big payday and is rated as one of the top 10, I think top 5 corners in the NFL, who is an elite third slot quarterback. You have an elite Tyreek Stevenson, who had early struggles last season in his rookie year, but you expect him to make that second year leap and even be better on that other side. You replace Eddie Jackson with an experienced veteran and Kevin Byard. So the secondary is without a doubt the strength of this defense. And then you have Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards as the linebackers, who played very well again towards the end of the season. So I think this defense, you kind of expect them to be a top half defense as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Ryan Poles does to address this this defensive line at least. Could he be active in the trade market again? Could he go get another edge rusher, or is Yannick Ngakoue going to be an option to sign? Because he's still out there and they have experience with Yannick Ngakoue. But or not, I think Ryan Poles has been he's shown in the past that he is very active in the trade market, and he doesn't have any issue with going out there and spending draft capital to make the team better. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does in terms of that defensive line. There's concerns. I'm not going to lie. Okay, I'm not 100% confident that this team is going to be a playoff team. There is concerns. There's genuine concerns on this team, and I think there's a lot of questions. Now, a lot of those questions will be answered, and I think a lot of those concerns could be quelled when you talk about going through the season and how the season progresses. But at the moment, there are concerns, there are strengths, and there are very, very high expectations, I think, going into next season, which I think Matt Eberflus, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, will have to he's overseeing all of it. You know, he's going to be the play caller again for this year. He may give it up eventually to Eric Washington, who is now the new defensive coordinator. But Matt Eberflus now I think his job security is a lot safer than most people think. I think Ryan Poles trusts Matt Eberflus. I think a lot of people would have liked to see a change in head coach. You know, Ryan Poles stuck with Matt Eberflus. There wasn't even a discussion. There wasn't even an interviewing process. He stuck with Matt Eberflus. He believes in Matt Eberflus. And I think we have to trust Ryan Poles to this point. And I'm not going to say that I have 100% confidence in Matt Eberflus. I think the jury's still out on him. Matt Eberflus, I think, is a fantastic defensive coordinator, and I think he gets the best out of his defense. But as a head coach, again, there's still question marks. And again, we may have, by the end of the season, he may win Coach of the Year. He is the favorite on the betting odds to be Coach of the Year for this upcoming season. So it's going to be interesting to see. This kind of leads me into expectations as a whole for the Chicago Bears this season. And when I look at this schedule, it honestly isn't that tough of a schedule. As I look at this schedule, now I'm going to be looking over to the side. It just if you're watching this, I know if you're just listening to this, then I'm going to give you what I'm doing. I am just moving over. I'm going to be looking over to the side and kind of going game by game what I expect from the team. We're going to have a little fun with this, okay? I'm not going to put any kind of number on it, right? I'm not going to put any kind of set number where I want to be. If we end up with 15 wins, we go 15-2, we end up with 15-2, and I don't care, okay? We're going to have the greatest season of all time, all right? So we're just going to go game by game, what I feel at the moment, what I think the team will be at, if it's going to be a win or a W or a loss. All right, that's just, it's simple as that. I'm not trying to overcomplicate this. You can play along too if you're listening to this, if you want to watch. If you're watching or listening, whatever. First game against the Tennessee Titans, week 1. I think the Chicago Bears win that game. I think it's a very winnable game. It's a very good game for Caleb Williams to start his career 1-0. Chicago Bears start off 1-0. Then things get a little tough with week 2 against the Houston Texans at Houston Texans with CJ Stroud and that new offense with Stephon Diggs. I think here's where we'll kind of get punched in the mouth and we'll understand where, hey, like we're riding a high after week 1, and after a week 1 victory, we're going to come down just a little bit and have a week 2 loss. So I think we're going to be 1-1. Then we go to Indianapolis for week 3 against the Indianapolis Colts. I think that's another victory for us. I think we go 2-1. Then the Los Angeles Rams, who were a playoff team last season, but they're still kind of in this kind of transition mode. Sean McVay is a very good head coach, but I think the Bears will have enough to win that at home against the Los Angeles Rams. Week 6 against Carolina. Come on. That's a dub. 4-1. Imagine 4-1. 4-1. That's insane. Okay, whatever. Then we go to London to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's basically Jacksonville's second home. And would I be surprised to see us lose that game against Jacksonville? No, I wouldn't be surprised. And I probably go with that a loss here. It's a very early kickoff, and you're going to a whole nother continent. Jacksonville is very familiar with that with London, very familiar with that travel. So I think they're going to get the win. And going into the bye, the Chicago Bears are 4-2, and I think we would be very, very happy with that. Now, the beginning of the schedule is very easy for the Chicago Bears. I don't think that it's one of the easiest schedules in the NFL as a whole. The first 8-9 games are very easy. The second half of the season is where things get tricky because we don't play a divisional opponent until week 11 versus Green Bay. Like, that's the first divisional opponent, and then we play all the division matches after that. So I think it's going to be a very, very fun first half, and then when we get to the second half of the season, it's going to be all about grinding, and it's going to be very difficult with some of those games. So week 8 at Washington, week 8 at Washington against the Commanders, the number 1 overall pick versus the number 2 overall pick, and Jaden Daniels going up against each other. I think the Chicago Bears win that. We go to 5-2. The Arizona Cardinals at Arizona on November 3rd, week 9. I think that's another win. Am I crazy? Are we going 15-2? Are we going 15-2? All right, no, but that's going to be 6-2 against Arizona. Then we play against New England, who is in week 10, who New England are one of the worst rosters, and they're just so talent deficient across their entire roster. I think that should be a win against, I would assume by then, not Drake May. I was going to say Mac Jones. It is Drake May. I think by that time, Drake May is going to be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. I think that's a win. That's 7-2. Going into Green Bay, week 11. My gut is telling me a loss. I'm not going to lie to you guys. My gut is telling me a loss. But fuck it, that's a win, baby. Let's go. Come on. 9 or 7, or is that 8? 8-2 going into week 12 against the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that's going to be a win as well. I think we're going to beat the Minnesota Vikings in week 11. That's 9-2. Now, at Detroit, is that Thanksgiving? I think that's a loss. I think we lose there. We go 9-3. At San Francisco, I think that's another L. I think that's a loss against the San Francisco 49ers in week 14. That is 9-4. Against Minnesota, at Minnesota, I think we go on a 3-game losing streak. Or, excuse me, no, I'm sorry. No, what was that? Sam Darnold is starting? JJ McCarthy? Never mind. That's a dub. We're going to go 10-5 4, if my math is correct. 10-4, and then versus Detroit, I think that's a loss. I think we lose to Detroit. Again, I think we get swept by Detroit. As much as I don't want to say that, I think even though we match up very well because we should have beat them last year, I'm rethinking everything as I'm going through this. But whatever. Win against, win against Detroit. Never mind. 11-4 going into week 17 against the Seattle Seahawks. That's a win as well. We go 12-4. And then week 18 against Green Bay, we lose 12-5. I am going with a 12-5. That is just going purely off of every game by game. That doesn't match my actual prediction. Okay, that doesn't match them exactly. My genuine expectations for this season. Okay. Now everything gets serious. Now we have to get really close to the mic because I'm being serious here, okay? No more messing around. We need to temper expectations, guys. We can't get out of hand. What I just did. I just went 12-5. It's not realistic. We're not going to be 12-5. And if we are, then that's fantastic. But it's just not realistic, okay? We're going to have to temper those expectations. Let's take a step back and understand that it is a rookie quarterback. It is a defense, like I said, an offensive line and a defensive line that has a lot of issues, has a lot of problems. This is not going to be a fun season. I'm kidding. This is going to be a very fun season. It's going to be a season full of ups and downs, and I'm here for the ride. What I genuinely feel I think 9 to 10 wins is feasible. I think anywhere between 9, 10, even 8 wins could be okay, but that means you go 8-9. Below 500, you could still make a wild card at 8-9, but I think the NFC, I think 9-8 is where you're the sweet point where you can be in a wild card spot. 10 wins, I think you definitely can get a wild card spot. I expect there anywhere from 9 to 10 wins. 9 to 10 wins, I think, is the realistic expectations for me. A playoff fight. I want to, by the end of the season, come December time, to be able to say we're playing meaningful games. Those games that I talk about from San Francisco all the way down to the last game in Green Bay, those 5 weeks. I hope all of those games mean something. We're in the hunt, we're in the playoff race, we're in the wild card. That's where I expect to be towards the end of the season. Whether or not we make it, we may fall short. Those are some tough games coming up by the end of the season. But as a whole, a lot of it's going to depend on the development of Caleb Williams. And we're going to have to really take each game week by week. I say this a lot. A week is a lifetime in the NFL. And things change weekly. Your vibe, your enthusiasm, your feeling for the team changes week by week, changes win by win, loss by loss. It's going to be a very up and down season. I think it's not going to be all peaches and roses, but I think we're going to have fun, and I think it's going to be a good season for us. So that will conclude my expectations, my preview for this upcoming Chicago Bears 2024 season. Let's all pray for the best, and I hope that we are going to get out of this season ultimately, even if we don't make the playoffs, knowing that Caleb Williams is the quarterback of the future. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you were watching, I really appreciate you guys for supporting and listening if you're out there, and I will catch you on the next one. Hopefully we talk more Bears because we're going to win a lot of games, and it's Bear season, baby. It's football. Let's go.